Ili watu wapate experience tofauti. Yeah. Okay. Anauliza hapa saizi ni nzuri kweli? Sio nataka nisikie.
Subiri watu wangu.
Okay.
Nadhani yule presenter wa mwisho aliondoka na ile
ni nani? Masegere. Naende zinapoteaga hivyo.
Ni ya kwake actually.
Ni ya kwake? Okay.
Tunachukua pesa ile ndio.
Mimi kwanza nilikuwa natenda ya lecture.
Tutamuomba tu.
Bila nani haimu. Haisogei.
Atatumia sasa.
Kama ile ipo. It's better to me. Alafu unajua saa hizi si anaanza ile mzee anakuja na anatumia kompyuta yake kwanza. Wewe utaweka hiyo kwanza.
Sawa.
Watu wanaipo tutaanza na hiyo. After hamia Robert, then ndio chakula na tunaenda kula. Tunaombea chia na muda. Haya mwisho ni more of general discussion.
Project your presentation is mtu yoyote ambaye
Good one.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Do another plug at the end of the session in the room.
Yeah.
We're just going to get up and talk. Next time I see you, I'll get up and I'll talk. I'll do it a couple of times today.
Yeah.
I'll just point to you.
I think it's time to start. So I think you are ready to take off. And introduce yourself and then go on with the presentation. The quicker the best, because we have another additional talk that will be done in the plenary online. So Karibu, you know some Swahili?
Afternoon, everybody, and after lunch session is always the most difficult. So, my name is Bruce Jones. I'm with the Earth Ranger program, and I look after partnerships. And I was asked to talk about building effective capacities for rangers. But this talk isn't only necessarily relevant for rangers, but also anybody who is based in the field. So whether it's a ranger or an ecologist or a field guide, all of these principles apply because we're talking about remote scenarios. So some of the challenges that are faced How do you quickly, effectively capture field observations? And up until now, well, not up until now, up until fairly recently, it's all been on paper. How do you navigate to waypoints if you don't know the area intimately? How are you tracked by an operations center or somebody centrally from a safety point of view and also from an operational management point of view? So if you are busy with a live law enforcement operation, how do you actually manage that from a central point? And then lastly, how do you manage patrols? So what we've got here from an Earth Ranger point of view is that we've got two applications. We've got a web application, which is typically run from an operations center, joint operations center, or it could be from an ecologist's office. So this is an application running on a web, and it gives you a full view of your site. The second app is a mobile app, which is what people in the field would use. And these two systems talk to one another. And depending on what sort of connectivity you might have, this could be in real time if you have connectivity in the field. And it's not just the mobile app, it's also other tools for tracking in the field. So, as I started out by saying what are the challenges, originally you'd say, well, how do you capture field observations? And this is an example of what people used to do, is that they would capture information in a book. But you don't need to do that anymore. And it's not just Earth Ranger, there are other tools. Tony yesterday spoke about Smart, using Smart Mobile. Earth Ranger also has Earth Ranger Mobile, and it looks something like this. So whatever event type that you want to capture in your system will be replicated on the mobile device. And this happens automatically, and it just synchronizes from the web application where the core database is stored. Once you load your mobile app, all of those data model is copied down into the mobile application. So anything that you have in the web application will be replicated on the mobile application as well. So when you're out in the field and you want to capture a field observation, you bring it up with very simple icons, lookup tables, drop-down menus, and you can capture any of those events. And then, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be law enforcement, it could be ecology, and that's used a lot by a lot of our conservation organization end users. It could be field guides, it could be logistics, so people capturing where there's a washaway in the road, whatever it might be. Anything that is in the field and you need to capture it will go into the tool. And that sort of information can be either on a point, so one particular coordinate or set of coordinates, saying that this is where there's a carcass or a washaway or an invasive species. But what we can also do is that we can do areas. So if you want to capture an area of invasive species or where there's been a burn, you could describe that as a polygon in the system as well. And you do that in a couple of different ways. The one is that, this keeps coming and going. One way is that you would do it from the web application by drawing it on a map. Or what you could do with the mobile app is that you could walk around that area. And soon we'll have the ability to fly a drone around that area, and we'll import that GPX file as the polygon, which will describe the area. So then you get area reports as well. We can also edit events. So we're also building in the ability to have quick capture. So if you're in hot pursuit or if you're in an aircraft and you want to quickly capture something, you do that with big buttons on the system. And then afterwards, once you're sitting in the comfort of your office or an operations center, you can enhance that information on the event as well. So you can capture more information, you can make slight adjustments if necessary as well. And all of that is audited, so you don't need to worry about data being lost or tampered with. The next thing is navigation. So a lot of the rangers or scouts or field personnel know their way around, but others don't. And so you might want to navigate to where somebody has reported that there's a carcass. Or you might want to navigate to where another field personnel is. So what you can do then is that the tool gives you the ability to navigate to those points. So you'll say, I'm going to go to Ranger X, even though both of you might be moving around, and if you're online, you'll be able, the system will dynamically change that bearing and distance to that person. Otherwise it could be to a fixed point, or another person, or an animal that is being tracked. So here we have a couple of different examples. So over here we want to go from yourself to an event. So here's an event, the poacher contact has happened there. This is where you are. It'll give you the bearing and distance to that point. The second one over here is from yourself to a map feature. So here's an observation post. So it'll give you the bearing and distance to that point. And thirdly, yourself to a subject. A subject is anything else that is tracked. So it could be another ranger, it could be a vehicle, it could be a digital radio, or it could be an animal. So over here, we want Ranger Moshi to get to Ranger Maria, and it'll give you the bearing and distance of how to get there. So all of these tools enable you to be able to navigate quickly and easily in the field as well. Then all of this information, in a lot of cases, needs to get back to a central operations center. And I'm sure some of you have got some grey hair like myself and will recognize this sort of thing on the wall. So this is a map of an area with pin markers in it showing where ranges were or where field observations were made. That's a thing of the past now, where you would have an operations center, where you have Earth Ranger running on a large TV over here, and all of these different points popping up on the screen so that you can navigate around that area. And also, if you're in the middle of an operation or a joint operation, you can direct your ranges to those points very quickly and easily. In fact, we've got lots of cases where the Joint Operations Center has known where perpetrators have been. They're in hot pursuit. They send off helicopters with K9 units to cut off people, and they've been apprehended because you are using the system in a command and control manner. So all of these different subjects that are being shown on the map, on the electronic map, are trackable somehow. So I mentioned Earth Ranger Mobile. That's a phone, either Android or iOS, but you do need GSM for real-time feedback. Alternatively, digital radios, we can track those. Those come into the system and you see exactly where they are at any time. LoRaWAN trackers, some of the protected areas have got big LoRaWAN. LoRaWAN is like it's a low energy, long range, wide area network. And you get small trackers that you can put on webbing or on animals for real-time location. Similarly, satellite trackers, which go on animals, those come in, and no matter what the manufacturer or the method that is being used, it all shows exactly the same way in Earth Ranger. Similarly, satellite-enabled GPSs, like the Garmin inReaches. In fact, we can also have two-way text communications with the Garmin inReaches direct from Earth Ranger into the devices. And then Spot has also got some devices. So these are some of the options of tracking in real time. Then communications, and I have covered this a little bit. So how do you communicate with people in the field? So obviously the two-way radios are fine. And we often get the question, well, should we replace our analog radios with digital radios? And I'm moving more to the opinion now that you shouldn't have to replace your analogs with digitals, because there's so many other tracking devices that you can save the money that you would spend on an upgrade to spend on other tracking devices. Because two-way voice communications are perfect on analog radios. In fact, they go further. But if you want to track something, then just get one of those other devices I spoke about earlier. So the ones that I've got soon next to, soon we'll be able to communicate over some of these devices. So for instance, over here, Earth Ranger, we will be able to do two-way texting. in a similar way to the way you do it with CAWM and inReaches. And LoRaWAN as well. Some of the guys are working on methods, although it's very small data packets, they're working on ways to break those down into smaller packets, send them across a LoRaWAN, then recompile them so that you can get a text message on the other side, which will be really cool. And then I've spoken about the inReaches and the SpotXs. SpotX is the inReach equivalent. So we currently can send and receive from the inReaches. Then getting on to patrol management, how do you manage, or how do the patrol team members manage themselves autonomously? So what you can do from Earth Ranger Mobile, you can start and stop patrols so that they're autonomous. You don't have to radio in to say start of a patrol, end of a patrol. And again, if you do have connectivity in the field, you would have, struggling to find these buttons. You'd have a real-time synchronization with the web application. But we're always also going to work in an offline mode. So what it enables you then to do is the assets can get launched faster, so you have a very quick launch of a patrol or an operation. They click the start button on their app, it immediately starts tracking them in a patrol. You can change the assignments as the guys are running through the field, and then you can also it gives you visual analysis of what's happening out in the field. And then at the end of a patrol, once they say end of patrol, it'll give you the distance covered, the time it took for them to do that, and then also any field observations that they've made in that time. So what are the benefits? Well, field observations are quickly and efficiently captured and synchronized to the central point. Navigation is a breeze with the navigating to these different points. The operations centers can track the ranges in real time so that live operations can be managed in a command and control point of view. And then, of course, safety. So this is often disregarded. Safety of rangers with in-field staff is important. People get lost. People get separated, animals attack them, and we've had guys sitting up trees with no radio or anything, and they need to be found. And this example over here, I was trying to remember it, I think it's one of the Frankfurt Zoo sites. What happened is that there was a patrol team out, one guy had a medical emergency, they needed to get him to help as fast as possible. There was a vehicle on the road over here, and these are all being tracked by different types of systems. So the guys in the operations center said to these guys, head in a bearing of, what's that, about 280 degrees, 275 degrees, until you hit a road. For those guys up here, and I'll play this in a second, they measured the distance to that intercept point and said travel for 20 k's along that road, and then stop. And then what happened is that they all met up. So this is real data coming through. They measured the distance there, go for 5.5 k's at a bearing of 280 degrees. Told these guys to travel for whatever the distance was. Here we're going along, you can see that they meet up over here. Oops. Okay. So they met up and they keep on missing the point here. And you can see that they met up, and then the vehicle took the injured patrol team member off to hospital, and he got successfully treated. So you can see from a safety point of view and from an operations point of view how effective this can be. And then off they went to hospital. So yeah, just an example of what we do. Just to finish off, where we come from, we're part of the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence. Some of you might have known us from Vulcan when we were in that Paul Allen organization. We've just shifted within the Allen group. Paul Allen is our founder. He started Vulcan and the other organizations after he left Microsoft. We're a non-profit organization, so everything we do is at our own cost. We provide the software for free, we host it in the cloud for free, we provide our training, support everything at no charge. Yeah, we've currently got around 40 developers, so it's a big team, and we're dotted all over the world at the moment. And where we are in the world, we started in this part of the world up here, and we've expanded mainly in this longitude over here, in Africa, but now we've expanded, got some in Europe, quite a lot in North America, and I've got a guy working for me in Latin America and South America, and we've also got some stuff going on here in Asia and Southeast Asia, and we've been tracking a couple of koala bears in Australia. So, that's it. Thanks for your time. If you need to get hold of me, here's my email address.
Thank you very much, and you've spared 2 minutes. I'll allow one observation, intervention, or question, or recommendation, or comment. Please.
I was just, sorry if I missed this at the start, but I was just going to ask about linking to surveillance aircraft. To aircraft.
Okay, so yeah, there are a couple of aircraft tracking tools. There are spider tracks, which a lot of our end users use. That's integrated into Earth Ranger. And then what some of the light sport aircraft people are doing is just using a cell phone with Earth Ranger to Earth Ranger Mobile. In fact, what I want to do is I want to set up the Bathhawk aircraft. They're quite good friends of ours. I'd like to set up an Africa-wide Bathhawk tracking Earth Ranger instance. Just from a safety point of view. If somebody goes missing, we can go and look at where they were last seen. So yeah, a couple of different ways to track aircraft.
Just one question. One of the issues that has been impairing adoption of these tools is about the servers.
Right.
Is there a possibility to have local servers?
Yeah. So I know that data sovereignty is a Tanzanian regulation, and that's why adoption has been very slow in Tanzania. The software has been written for to be cloud-based. And Kenya tried to have on-prem servers. The effort from our point of view of upgrading any single on-prem server is just as much as it is to do the same for 500 different servers. And also the cost to Napa Tawa would be, and that's what Kenya found out, is that they realized they needed 3 file servers, and they needed a couple of different people to run it, and it became very cost prohibitive, and they needed really expensive skills. So yeah, we can't do anything other than cloud-based. Now, if you have a Tanzanian-based cloud, and you give us access to that cloud, we can assist. But it does need to be a cloud of some sort. And that's what's happening in there's only one other country that has that requirement out of the 63 countries we're dealing with, and that's Saudi Arabia. So yeah, if you can speak to the powers that be, please, then Tanzania can really just explode, because it's all over the rest of Africa.
Okay, any other? Nothing?
Great.
Thank you very much for your talk. So next is Robert Mande, who is going to take us through transformation, policing, and anti-poaching, fostering sustainable conservation.
Asante Doctor. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
15 minutes.
Because 15 minutes is nothing to me, because I've taken the whole day. I'll take you through very briefly, because it's an experience which all of us, we know about it, so I won't take much time. In trying to think of this, I've been trying to see that we need integration. We have been doing a lot. I've seen the presenters, what they've said, but we have never integrated what we are doing to be in one-stop center. If I ask everybody here, I've been doing a lot, but in in isolation. So we've been working in silence. That is my call from the beginning. I quoted this guy, the solution of our current problems cannot be found from the level of conscience that created them. Some of us here, we are the ones who created the problem. So now it becomes very hard to use the same level of conscience to solve the problem. So we need to go to the more higher level. That's why we are talking about the technology, so that we can solve the problem, because we are the part of the problem. If I'm the ranger, I go and cheat on the information I'm collecting because I want to impress my boss. How can I be a solution at the same time? Go back to Nyerere, because these philosophers are the ones who get me informed in this. Nyerere said, the survival of our wildlife is a matter of grave concern. Sometimes we need to face the risk to the level we can be eliminated, because it's not that easy. Because you are dealing with a grave concern. This was Nyerere words 62 years ago. But now he said, the widespread call for specialist knowledge. Knowledge, not only knowledge. You need to have a skilled personnel. So, Mweka, you need to produce people who are specialized. Not because that law enforcement we are doing here and then you say they are ready to go there. So we need to find a package which now these people will be specialized in whatever, if it is investigation, should be skilled. But we need to cooperate. So that's what I'm going to be talking, basing on your perspective. The debate here, I want to provoke and advocate for more practical and honest. You know what I'm experiencing for 25 years I've been working in conservation. People are not honest. You find people are communicating, but they are not communicating. Somebody is presenting something which he doesn't believe in. So we need to come up to honest conversation, holistic approach. We don't look for a niche where you are comfortable and say, because I'm comfortable here, then you start protecting your position. That is what is happening. So we need to be adaptive so that we can conserve, utilize, and protect wildlife, while addressing not only symptoms. Because I've been arguing with my people at the ministry, you're talking about militarization. You're talking about symptoms. You're not talking about addressing the problem. We need to come with a solution which address problem, not only symptom. So for the background, we know that within 10 years ago, we have lost more than 60%. Everybody is saying so. So we think that use of multi-agents and the militarized approaches in the context of anti-poaching laws reflects complex and often challenging. It shows how it's complex. Because if you say you go for militarization alone, you can't solve the problem. It means you need to combine this kind of approach so that you solve the problem holistically. I want just to have a flashback. When we say 60%, it is true, because some people think that it's not true. We used to have elephants, you find 9, 8, 10 in one place. At one time, we were with Mzee Saleh here. We found in Manyara Ranch, elephants were killed, so it is real. This kind of arrest, we were confiscating ivory like that. If you go now in Tuambu game controlled area, people slaughter zebra, grants, and animals are slaughtered. That's true, that's real. You can see now the trend. The trend has been you can see the trend. So if we are not careful, we'll be coming here, discussing, having a symposium, but at the end of the day, 10 years, we don't have animals. So I don't know, we'll be saying that we had animals, but we were busy with the discussion. We want discussion which are impactful. We don't want to come here and just discuss and that's why you find some people are not coming here, because they don't know that by discussing then we can forge the way together. Elephant were going down to extinct. But some measures which were taken, which I will say, were able to stabilize. Other concepts have been discussed. Rangers. Professor Songoro was defining who is a ranger. But now I don't know, under this militarization, who is a ranger? If I ask you, who is a ranger? We have everybody is now militarized, paramilitary. So now we need to redefine who is a ranger. Because professionally, maybe I'm an accountant. Now you're talking about a ranger. I want to be part of the paramilitary, but I don't want what comes with a ranger. You rangers go for the patrol, but when it comes to decoration that we are all paramilitary, we are together. So we need to redefine these things. I'm concerned about that. But in stewardship, do people understand that there is a responsibility when you are a ranger, you are a custodian? Everybody of us is a custodian, but do we understand? Or because it's just a job, because it's a paying job? You are an ecologist. Do you have that in heart that you understand that is stewardship? A ranger has a discretion power that they understand. Do Mweka teach them to understand? Somebody will graduate to understand that he will have a discretion power, whether to arrest or not to arrest somebody, whether to take a bribe or not. Nobody will be there. They will have a discretion power. Are they ready to hand that, to take over that responsibility? Transformation, sustainability, those are concepts which we talk about. But emotional intelligence is very important. Do we produce rangers or officers after Mweka who are emotionally, they understand the job, what are they going to deliver? Do they have that level of understanding, or we're just producing people who pass the exams? I think that's very important to discuss, and for the rangers and the officers to understand, so that we can transform the law enforcement. When we talk about the theory, change, you know, sometimes people change, they talk about changes, but in reality, nobody is changing. People, they are working as a tradition, but they're saying they're changing. So we need to change for really. So change, according to Kut, is about unfreezing. Take something, you take the fish outside of the freezer, you unfreeze it so that you can adjust everything, and then now you go for change. After that, you refreeze it again so that it's in a proper model for the next thing. So that is what we are thinking of transformation. People have been asking, what is happening? You can see now, I can give you a good example now in the Ministry of Natural Resources. That is what change we started. We started to change. When we are at a certain level now, you find a depression, you know, bargaining, anger, shock, a lot of shock. That is how this theory goes. For some people who doesn't understand, they think it's something, it's according to the principle that we have a shock. After that, acceptance. So we are sure that it will settle and the things will move. This is the principle. Okay. What I wanted to summarize, because time is not with us, is a transformation doctrine. You know, leadership, which we want leaders, rangers, officers, it's not about position. Leader is about activity. It's about what Mzee was saying. He has been a leader in conservation, leading by doing things, planning things. But people think it's about position. It's not. Anyone can lead anytime. Okay? Can lead anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are, you can lead. It starts with you, it starts with me. Leadership in conservation, we need leadership of everybody. Must engage others. Networking. Your purpose must be clear. Because some of the people, their purpose is not known. They are just opportunistic. But it is risky. When you have become a leader, you are so focused, you must understand that it's risky. It requires being consistent, confident, honest, and passionate. That's what we're calling for, transformation in conservation. So that people are honest. You find people, the way they're doing things, you understand these people, they are honest. But here comes the problem. We have a competing commitments. When you go to the ministry, when you go to the department, has numerous commitments, speaking unspeakable. Because you find in the meeting when people are sitting, they cannot speak what is the problem. You find the problem, the elephant is in the room, but people, they are going around. They don't say what is exactly the problem. That's what I'm calling for. Work avoidance. People avoid the reality. So transformation and adaptive is very important. We need to take from where we are come from to capitalize on that. And because I will share this one, I think there is no problem. What I'm saying here, there is two things. Technical problem and the adaptive problem. Normally people like to work with technical problem because it's simple. We have the answers. But technical problem, which is now poaching, illegal welfare trade, issues of conflict, human welfare, those are things which need to work together. You cannot claim that we want to work alone. That is what we're saying. We should not stay in a comfortable work avoidance zone because technical problem is here, this is the adaptive. So you find somebody is just playing here so that he gets what he wants, but nothing is done. That is what we don't want. So, what we are saying, we want to use these techniques, diagnose the problem together, do contextual analysis, come up with these 8 principles. Get on the balcony, because the concept is when you are in the disco floor, Diamond, for example, will be up there so that it will be dancing so everybody can see, and they can see everybody. That is the concept of getting into the balcony. The problem is, today you find people, they are supposed to be here to get on the balcony, but they have never played the game. You have somebody who has been given authority, but he doesn't know what is in. He didn't do any diagnosis, so that is very important to be done. We need to understand the concept of poaching, for example. We have done research, this is a result of my research. We have come across that poaching is divided into 5 levels. We need to understand, so by understanding these 5 levels, we can be able now to plan how to approach it. But we have proved that there are 3 levels of anti-poaching, which means this is at the protected level, this is at the landscape level, and this is at the national level. I've been asking my people, if you say you have a jeshi la uhifadhi, which can only deal with this one, what about this at the landscape level, which needs, is an adaptive problem, needs to work together with other law enforcement agencies. You cannot work alone here. You need to work with others so that you, and then at the national level, you need a coordination. Even from the non-governmental perspective, we need to coordinate all of us so that we are able to be focused. This is one of the analysis I did to check into ecosystem risk analysis. Let me show you. Most of the ecosystem, they fall under number 4. They scored from 25% to 54% of immediate concern. Take, for example, Burigi Chato ecosystem. A lot of firearms, a lot of livestock, a lot of poaching is taking place, encroachment, so they fall under this. A lot of informers are being killed, so the risk is very high. Few of them under average, and only 3 landscape scored good. So we need to transform by looking into how much risk is on the ground. We need to research. I did the research in trying to see illegal wildlife trade as an organized crime. This is what This is what I came up with. These are the major problems. I want to finish. Issues of technology, issues of ethics, success. Okay, I wanted here to summarize. Please give me 1 minute. I wanted to summarize.
You have 4.
Okay, thank you so much. What we are saying here, there are potential barriers which normally are not said. I will say. Number one, inadequate collaboration within and between institutions. Our good institutions in the government, be it in Uganda, be it in Kenya, be it in Tanzania, you find forest people, they are talking with the wildlife people, but they don't talk those critical things because everyone don't want to look bad. Everybody will hide. That is a problem number one. Because if you go to the NGOs, if you go to WWF, for example, sorry WWF, if you go to AWF, if you go to, they also retain they don't talk. That is what problem number one. Number two, mindset and culture. We want to maintain a certain culture because people will tell you, Frankfurt, we have our culture. Well, you will never change Frankfurt because they have their culture. We tell them the approach, that one is too old, brother. Now we need to go ahead. But I think Frankfurt now is changing a lot, and I have seen that most of NGOs now, they are welcome, but we need to change our culture on how we operate because poachers and the criminals have changed now. They work in a different way. But the big thing is corruption and the collusion. If you say why people are grazing in national park, it's because people are colluding. That's true. But if you say, they will say, Robert is very bad. Nobody will like that, but that is a problem. But the fear of change is another big problem. Because I have been in Ngorongoro, I want to remain the same. I have been in Tanapa for 20 years, I want inadequate financial resources. That may not be a big problem. Because sometimes we have a lot of resources, but I think we are not coordinated. A lot of money is coming in this country. But if you go for value for money, I can tell you there is no value for money. We need to do contextual analysis to understand how much money is coming and what are we getting from that money. So I think resources, I would have removed this. It's not a problem. Problem in this country is not resource. Inadequate human resource. I think this is another big problem. Skilled, people may have knowledge, but they don't have that skilled and a passion. People are not being honest. Working in silos. Everybody is working alone. Inadequate engagement of community. Because now we are military, we want to display that to show the decoration that we are military. We don't want to work with people. At the end of the day, what do we get? People retaliate. We don't want to go there. We want to make sure that we involve people. Adoption of technology. We are very slow in adopting technology. We pretend like, oh, come on, is this technology safe? Is this it? Why, if we don't have ours, we need to adopt the technology. You don't have your technology, and then you will be suspicious. And you say, oh, you know, they may take your data. Which data? You don't have technology, people can take everything. And they have been taking actually. When it comes to the issue, people will tell you. At one time I met with the Chinese, they were telling me, you know, in Tanzania you say you are afraid of people who take that, okay? Come, brother. Well, which park do you want us to see? Serengeti, okay. See the vehicles are passing. Who is this? Everything, they can take everything. They say, okay, but this is about Tanzania, let's go to Yellowstone. So they beamed the Yellowstone. We were able to just see like we are there. So the issue of technology, brother, if you say you are trying to protect yourself, we are just wasting our time. Inadequate involvement and coordination of private sections. You know, we have been so protective. We don't want to engage the others. We are suspicious. We don't trust each other. But sometimes you ask somebody, you have been collecting information. Every month in this park, 10 elephants are killed, and you are keeping that information. It means you want an elephant to go by 10 years. You don't have elephant because you cannot take any measure. You don't want to share. Otherwise, thank you so much. This will be shared so you can have by yourself, and then we can continue working. Mweka prepare more kind of this conversation, because we are not working together because the institution like Mweka, you are not doing your job properly. Thank you so much.
Monday, I expected it would be like that. Knowing Monday. It's a very inspiring presentation. It is giving us a very different perspective. Very different, for example, from Dr. Martin's climate change modeling, whatever. These are really practical issues that have to do with management on site. So I think you can see how the topics have been chosen to diverse the experience of this particular workshop. The thing he was talking is very, very relevant, particularly in terms of incorporating information and data to improve our management. In the morning, there was a talk about the number of rangers killed and those that have been injured. But the problem is that those, they are kept secret. They are not used to provoke discussions in the country so that we can open up, you know, in terms of strategies that can safeguard our rangers. So that number is considerable, the one that was projected by Professor Songoro. But I know that we are quarreling every day in the parliament. If a single community member is killed, it's news. If a ranger is shot by a poacher, it's not news. So, but we sit and wait, like a python. Python will sit and wait. If you pass there, the catch rate is almost 100%. That is his strategy. So sitting and wait has got its pros and cons. So these are things that stimulate your minds of you, good people, to see whether we can do something different in the way we are managing our wildlife. So we have the last, thank you very much, Robert. We have now the last presentation. It will be done by Charles. It's you.
Yes.
President Chagula.
So, I had something to ask.
Please write it. Write it and we will have time there. Just say this goes to Robert Bandi.
Okay.
So just Chagula, you're welcome. I understand you are presenting on behalf of whoever didn't show up. Karibu for 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Dr. I might use less,
That will
but
be
my
better.
name is Charles Chagula. I'm a youth representative. I sit in the Youth Advisory Council of Leadership for Conservation in Africa. But today I'll be airing this out
And a
as
former student of Mweka.
and a former student of Mweka who graduated in 2020, and I'm currently pursuing my master's at Nelson Mandela. So a lot has went on during this symposium, but as we were outside, we were asking ourselves, how many times have you heard the word youth in the presentations? It is a thing that probably should be brought up. So this is my presentation outline. I'll have the major question. I'll talk a bit about the African youth, and I'll talk about the success, particularly what has been done, and we'll have an eagle's gaze that's on the gaps or challenges that should be addressed, as well what must be done for the future of wildlife conservation in regard to youth. So the major question that I pose, or that is being posed today, the question is it today's parent senior conservationist, or is it today's children, the junior conservationist? People might think this question is broader, so it might go in a number of ways. Before coming here, I asked two of my colleagues to go through this presentation. And one said, I asked him after reading, what do you get out of this? And what he got actually is it the senior conservationist or the junior conservationist that should be at the forefront of wildlife conservation in Africa? I said, wow, that's actually not what I meant. Then I should probably hold on to what I meant, and everyone should take the question as it is. So Africa has been blessed with diverse number of wildlife, and it's a really testament to the beauty and resilience of the natural world. However, the challenges of wildlife conservation are diverse as the ecosystem we strive to protect. In this pursuit, inclusion, women, youth is a matter that should be taken, or that is a necessity. So it's estimated that by 2030, the African population will be 1.6 billion, of which the youth will constitute 42%. So the young Africans, not the younger though, will need capacity and opportunities to take up leadership position as their countries work towards economic growth and attaining these sustainable development goals. So why that youth inclusivity matters? There are a number of stuffs, a number of reasons. Some have said that the youth adapt to technology quite quickly, but what I find is the major thing that why youth inclusivity matters is because conservation challenges, let's say climate change, plastics, funding, all things that have been said by presenters, human-wildlife coexistence, these affect everyone, but they affect youth in a special way. These challenges affect youth who will inherit both the success and the challenges that are shaped by today's decisions, by decisions made today and tomorrow. So going on with the major question, after 60 years, are the youth ready? That's a question to the youth. Are we ready? After 60 years, are the youth well prepared? That's another question, and people might have different answers. So after going through that, let's see some of the success that have been made that I quickly could have found. So after 60 years, there are emerging eco clubs and youth networks, but these all are still in urban areas. There are emerging African youth leadership that are training youth, and there are emerging support for youth-led initiatives, but I would still say these initiatives are still centered in urban areas. But as well, there is awareness and knowledge on conservation for conservation students or the youth. Those are some of the challenges that I managed to highlight. Then coming to the challenges or the gaps. So according to the More Ibrahim Foundation, it says that despite that there are emerging networks, but yet 61% of youth networks in Africa are weak in internal capacity, but still 54% are weak in external engagement. Yet more to come, 84% of these networks are still weak in advocacy. Other challenges are technological divide among African youth. That's still a barrier between youth living in urban areas and youth living in rural areas. But as well, a big one, access to resources and opportunities for youth in conservation is still a constraint. So what should be done? These are some of the things that I've highlighted, and there could be more actually. So one is youth inclusive police advocacy, the other one youth-led network in rural areas where natural resources are found should be actually initiated. Youth conservation for non-conservation student and organization as well is a key thing. If I could have data, or probably for the organizers that have data, I'm not certain how many non-conservation organizations are actually present here, but conservation is not actually only for people who are doing conservation. So that's a thing probably should be done in the future. Another thing, this is bolded, access to resources is still quite a challenge to youth. I've used quite a diplomatic language. So access to resources means a lot employment opportunities in here. But also probably what should be done in the future in regard to the youth in conservation, capacity building in terms of advocacy, fundraising, and storytelling in how we how the narratives behind conservation in Africa. So while I was at Mweka, while assisting in teaching, once came a student from Moshi International School, and it was actually good that that kid is probably around 8 years old, but she had the skills of fundraising. She was actually raising funds for a minor project, and I think as African youth, that's a thing that should be probably incorporated into our syllabuses, or a thing that should be done. So answering the question, the major question that I posed, I would say that this question is quite broad, and it does have many answers. So I'll leave it to everyone to have their own answers. And asanteni sana. By just closing, I would say nature conservation is not just an obligation; it's a privilege, and a privilege that youth should enjoy as well. Thank you sana. Asanteni sana.
Very much, Charles, and I think you deserve another clap for being the youngest presenter. Presented very well. These issues are now taken over by UN. With the UN proposals, we have to mention youth, women, indigenous people, I don't know what, and now the rights owners. It's a very difficult concept for some of us, but well. So it's very well, and I'm sure that even in Tanzania national policies, the policy cannot go through without terminologies with the youth and whatever. But there are real issues, and borrowing from Monday, Robert, there are issues that we often forget. You know, now I'm told 60% of Tanzanians youth, age 35 and below. 60% of 60 million is youth. Coincidentally, the youth also are very equipped with technologies, not like us. So they are easily people that can be taken on board to bring about the changes. But we often forget about them, or we don't show up on what we call a stage to actually speak things that can work. There's no way you can ignore that mass of population and pretend that you are addressing conservation. So this is a very important, also presentation, and it should be also be considered as we discuss the general issues that we've been discussing. I would love, for example, all the projects that are doing wildlife to have some component of the youth. If we tend to ignore them, they will overtake us very soon. because they are equipped and they are the ones that are floating already. So it will be taken by event. That's the English of it. Will be taken by event. So thank you, Charles. I think we have some few minutes. We are waiting for our colleagues, so I can unfold myself a bit. I'll be number 2. Number 1 is, so you can see it. Any question, you can mention the presenter, and they can respond.
Yeah.
Starting with the.
Yeah, my question to Mr.
Can you stand up? Just give us a different flavor. Karibu.
My question to Robert Mani. I understand that you're being in that position of being a leader, most of those departments, and then can you share with that? You have openly said those kind of things, like there are some fears of people not saying the truth, not saying what the elephant in the room. Then can you explain at least to help us? Why do you think there are those kind of fears? That's number 1. Why people like to provide you with what you want to hear and not actually the problems in the environments, and then you keep on holding the problems and not solving it. The other thing is the trend of the elephant populations that you provided there. Of course, it's not my first time to see that. I've seen that trade, but there have been a lot of questions on the, the upright trade, like there has been an increase of the elephant, like 10,000 within a very short time after the operations, the famous operations, which happened a few years ago. And then people are asking about the issue of carrying capacity, about the issue of what we call it, the gestation periods of elephants. We know how long it takes. And then how comes that after a few years after that operation, then we have such kind of increase? It's like, doesn't come to the mind of people. Then they are questioning those data. Yes, only those people.
Okay.
Yeah, so Charles, I wanted to congratulate you on your presentation, and just thanks for, there is a need for networks for youth to join. They can find out more and explore the options for them in career paths or education paths in conservation. So I think that's really important for us to take forward, that we need to support our youth, we need to create new people who are coming out of CB